Hi guys, we are just a couple weeks out from the end of the semester. You guys are in the home stretch, and I just wanted to do one more web video about expectations for your observation project. I think those of you that did come to our optional face-to-face meeting, I think that was helpful to clarify some information, but those of you that didn't make it, that's okay. This video should help clarify any last-minute questions that you have, and if it doesn't, feel free to contact me via email or even give me a phone call, and I'd be more than happy to talk about anything that you need to talk about to get this project done successfully. So I just have the course descriptions called up right now, and I just wanted to point out a few different things. In the guidelines, it says right here, evidence of observation. It says provide copies of the Eckers with your detailed notes and rating, include notes, details, quotes, diagrams, rating, etc. Score sheets must also be included. Since this is an online course, I'm not going to have you submit any notes that you took during your observations. If you feel the need to include any sort of diagrams that you may have drawn during your observation, you could always scan those and put those, attach those as part of your paper, but it's not a requirement. The score sheet that you will be attaching is on Blackboard, so if you want to go to the observation information link on Blackboard and scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's that Eckers scoring sheet, and you're just going to let me let it load for a second here. And you're just going to use this. You're going to fill this out with your ratings, and this is what you will submit on Blackboard. And you can even go in, type in your ratings here, save it and as your own document, and then attach it on Blackboard as well. I went ahead and put up the course modules that'll take you through to the end of the semester. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. So this is the final week's module. If you click into it, you'll see that there's a couple things that you still have to do in your textbook, but then here are the links to submit your project. So this is where you will upload the Eckers scoring sheet. This is where you will either scan into a scanner or take an image of it, but just make sure whenever you're taking a photograph as an image, that you make sure that it looks like a document, that it's not just that I'm seeing a photograph of a picture sitting on a table. I want it to look like it's an actual document, because I will have to print those out and submit those to the department as proof that you completed those 15 hours. Another thing I want to point out is make sure when you submit your observation log that you have had your cooperating teacher or the director of the school sign it, and that you have signed it as well. So make sure that it has signatures on it, because I need those signatures. So that's where you'll submit that. And then the paper part you'll submit here. So there's 3 different locations that you will need to submit things for the observation project. The Eckers scoring sheet, the observation log, which proves your 15 hours of observation, and then the paper itself. So make sure that you do submit things there. When it comes to the paper, I just wanted to talk about how I want it set up. First of all, the paper should be no longer than 15 pages. I am going to estimate that your paper will be between 10 and 15 pages, so please make sure that you pay attention to that page limit. I want an introduction, so make sure that you have an introduction with a brief overview of the setting. So talk about, I observed at such and such early childhood center. It had, this many classrooms and this many age groups. So talk just a little bit about the location that you observed at. It won't be a long introduction or a long paragraph. The next paragraph you'll reflect on the space and furnishing section. You don't have to talk about every little detail, every little indicator, every little standard. You're going to summarize it. You're going to talk about your rating. Based on that rating, is an appropriate or inappropriate environment, and how do you know that? So include examples from your notes, include quotations or anything that's going to help me visualize the space and truly understand how you know it was an appropriate space. Next paragraph, personal care routine, same type of thing. So your paper will be laid out. Each of these bold headings here will be a new paragraph. And then you'll have your conclusion as well. Again, within these different sections, make sure you're supporting your information with information that you learned from the class in your textbook. Make sure you're supporting it with illustrations from your observation about the setting. Make sure you're including dialogue or quotations or information that's going to help me see that you understand if this is an appropriate environment or an inappropriate environment based on the rating of the program. So this is where your notes will come in handy. Even though you aren't submitting your notes to me, you will be using those notes to support your reflection of the observation. Also, in the conclusion here, make sure that it is detailed. Pay attention to this grading rubric whenever it talks about the conclusion and all of the different things that go into that conclusion. A lot of the conclusion talk about assessment and goals and the importance of meeting those goals. There are two different things that you can include in this conclusion that have to do with assessment. First of all, the ECHRS is an assessment tool. Why is it important to use the ECHRS? What is it doing? What does it help you find out? Talk about that in the conclusion and the importance of that. Also, within your observation, you should have seen the teachers doing assessment with the students. Were they taking notes? Were they taking photographs? Do they have documentation boards? How do they assess the students and their knowledge? So there's two different ways you can approach that, and you can even approach them both within your paper. And so make sure that you do have detailed information in your conclusion. The conclusion is where I'm really going to see that the information that you learned this semester made sense and it clicked with you. I want to see that you can take your observation experience and apply that and use that information with the information that you learned in the textbook. So I should see that very clearly within your paper and especially in your conclusion, that you took your theory and you related it to your practice experience and it all makes together, or all makes sense together. Another thing I just wanted to point out in this rubric, again, I think I have already stated this before, but make sure that you pay attention in this activities section here. I want to know what activities they were doing. I want to know what centers there were in the classroom, so give me some detail about that and why it was appropriate. And then in this interaction section, this is a great section for you to talk about interactions between students, interactions between the students and the teachers. This will be a good spot to use direct quotations to give me an example of that. So again, make sure that you're using some concrete examples from your observation notes. So I hope that you took notes during your observation so that you can make sure that you do have those details in your paper so that I can see that information reflected. Again, written work, college level writing is expected. If you're not the greatest writer, have someone proofread your paper, make sure that the grammar makes sense, make sure there's no spelling mistakes, make sure that it reads well, that it's organized, that it makes sense. And then if you used any sort of outside source, make sure that you cite that too. If you used your textbook or used an article, make sure that you cite those sources as well. Again, this project is worth 200 points of your grade, so even if you've done well on your reflection papers and your discussion boards this semester, if you don't do well on this paper, it can really bring your grade down. So again, if you have any questions about the expectations of this observation paper, please reach out to me and let me know. I think that's all the information that I needed to explain at this time. Again, if I'm missing something or you still are unclear about anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. Again, this is due on May the 8th, so you still have about 2 more weeks to get this done, but I do highly suggest that you start on it early because you will want to spend some time and make sure that it is a quality paper so that you can get a really good grade on it. All right, guys, have a great day. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.